A very warm welcome and welcome again here at CyberNova, where we all are interested in securing the business of tomorrow. My name is still Wout Maarschalk, your Dell Technologies booth host. I am flanked by three fantastic gentlemen from left to right. Johannes Vermeer from POM, Olaf Jonkers from It's Me, and Gert-Jan Sijsens from Bankcontact Company. Very warm welcome. Let's give them a round of applause. Gentlemen, before I give you the parole to yourself and where you can introduce yourself, I mean, outsmarting phishing, shaping the future of secure payments. That's what we're going to be talking about. In the pre-alignment sessions, it became very apparent that scammers are everywhere, scammers are evolving, and scammers are very, very hard to be upfront of them. And that's exactly what we'll be discussing today. Johannes, maybe why don't you take it away by just introducing yourselves, and then we get into the content in a second.
Thank you very much, Wout. So, Johannes Vermeer, I'm the co-founder of POM. And POM back in 2014, we decided we wanted to make a solution to make invoice payments easier. And actually, we were the ones that introduced the QR codes on invoices. So meanwhile, we do it for about 3,200 companies. You may say, who's POM, QR codes and POM? For the ones that ever had a traffic fine, there's a little QR code on it. Well, actually, that's ours. But we do it not only, of course, to make the government richer. We also do it for a lot of hospitals, schools, energy companies, a bit everybody who has to do with B2C payments. Just a little further, we evolved from pure payments to invoice-to-cash solutions. And what we aim for is trying to digitize as much as possible our customer processes.
Exactly, and that digitization, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Johannes, very well welcome in the panel. Olaf, back to you.
Taking it from digitalization, Olaf Jonkers, head of risk and compliance for It's Me. Been doing that already for up to almost 10 years. We have been on the market since 2017. You all probably know us, for those that are Belgian at least. We have been taking the mobile identity to another level, I think. We have achieved 8 million accounts. A lot of these users are using it on a daily basis. But what we do see is that some users indeed do things that they shouldn't have done. Why did they do it? We'll go into that detail.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna put a little bit of an anecdote there, because I also recently received some scam emails from It's Me. I was like, you need to update your It's Me. I was like, no, this doesn't seem right. So
the scam mail did not come from It's Me.
That's no, I checked the email headline, so I was outsmarting the scammers. No, but very warm welcome to you as well. Gert-Jan, over to you.
Yes, so my name is Gert-Jan. I work as information security officer for the Bankcontact company. I've been working there, I think, for 3 years now. And I have a background, let's say, in offensive security. So I started my career as an ethical hacker, where I just came from school. And they just said to me, like, Gert-Jan, here's a company, go and break in. Which was actually very nice when you just come from school. And then I went into consultancy and I moved into the financial industry. And now I work for Bankcontact, and I think everybody knows Bankcontact. We are Belgium's most trusted payment brand. In total, we process about 2 billion transactions every year. We are also one of Belgium's most trusted brands. So when we talk about this whole phishing proposition and this phishing problem, that's of course really very high on our radar. So I'm very happy to share today what we're going to do to outsmart them.
Exactly. Let's get into it, I would say. So today we have 3 provocative statements for you all. The aim is to take you through those provocative statements to better understand, okay, where do the differences lie? Also, where can we outsmart those scammers? And most of all, how can we be vigilant of what's going to happen in the future? Because scammers are there and they're acting very fast. The first statement. It is a bit provocative, which I love. It's the victim to blame. They should be more careful. So basically, we're saying, if I would have clicked on this scammer email of It's Me, then it would have been my fault. Gert-Jan, do we agree?
So I would say no. I would say partially. Because on one hand, what's very important to know is that when we talk about phishing, a lot of people, they have the misconception that the other guys on the other line of the phone, so the phishers themselves, is that's just, let's say, a couple of teenagers in their basement just calling people, seeing what they can do. But the reality is often completely the other way around. Because if we look, they're professional organizations. So the guys who kind of conduct the scamming, it's not, like I said, somebody in the basement, but it's really professional organizations that actually do it. And to kind of give you a bit of a proof, the picture here behind me, that's from a presentation that 2 Norwegian security researchers gave last year at the DEFCON conference in Las Vegas. And what those Norwegian security researchers actually did is they infiltrated one of those scamming networks, so one of those scamming organizations which do nothing else than scam people. And this is an example of their setup. So what you're seeing here behind me is actually a battery of phones, and the only things that these phones do is actually send out scam messages 24/7. Every minute they just are sending out to potential victims. And in the original presentation of the Norwegian guys, this was actually not a still picture, but this was a movie. This was a small movie, and you could really see the screens of the phones just constantly sending out messages. So that's, let's say, the opponents that everybody is up against. Everybody who's getting scammed, the guys on the other side of the phone, are the people who operate something like this. And what's also interesting to add is what you see here is those guys are very security sensitive as well, because you see on these phones that there are like these little stickers everywhere. So they also taped off the cameras on the phones, that if they would ever get hacked, that the phones, that they can't really see what's there. So when you say, when you put out the provocative statement like it's the victim's fault, often you're forgetting that the other guy on the phone it's a professional guy. It's somebody who gets up in the morning with the only objective of, I'm going to fish people today. So that's who you have on one side, and then on the other side you have your 92-year-old grandmother. So it's easy to say it's your grandmother's fault, but you often forget that what's on the other side.
Yeah, I think Olaf wants to pick in on this one, right?
It's an unfair battle. People are confronted with, indeed, organized gangs, people that are doing this for a living, doing this for illegal gains. These are organized people. If you're, and I'm not talking about a 92-year-old, if you're a youngster, you are very versed in doing things on your mobile phone, but it's limited to your social networks, it's your typical apps that you use. But as soon as you come into contact with finance apps, as soon as you come into contact with these kind of complexities, even your governmental usage of, for example, the It's Me app, you do not know what is normal. You're confronted with something you don't know, and you can be tricked in doing things that you shouldn't have done. And this is becoming a real problem. If you are doing digital identity, you should be aware that bringing out these kind of ecosystems, bringing out of this kind of infrastructure, you take responsibility. We have a responsibility to society to do this in the right way. Mm-hmm. And I hope that with the eIDAS 2 and the upcoming mobile wallets that you will see popping up in the next 2 years, 3 years, that these responsibilities come with the same actions from governmental institutions.
Yeah, I understand that it's a shared responsibility. I am just very curious because we're getting fuller and fuller in the booth, but by raise of hands, who's received these scammer emails already? Yeah, literally all of us. And who's... Oh, this is going to be a naughty one. And who has clicked on it?
Don't ask it.
Oh, now no one has clicked on it, obviously. They're also smart. Love it. Of course, we have the audience for it today. But, I mean, it is very striking, right?
It's not always... you not always need to click on something or make an error yourself. I had once a case that somebody made an eSIM in my name. So he was linked to a shop from Proximus. So... They had done it during the night and the morning, so I couldn't even use my phone anymore. You can get into a situation where you're not even involved at all. So it's definitely not always, or in most of the cases, not the fault of the user.
It underlines the responsibility and the link with the different players in that ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Everybody of us has to play a role in that one.
Yes, exactly. And do you think that links nicely to the second statement? By the way, these are a few more pictures that we have from these operations.
There's maybe one other thing to add. So the Norwegian guys, they infiltrated the phishing network, and at the end of their session, when they pulled out the metrics, it was known that it was about 100,000 cards that were actually phished every month, which is really, really a lot. It was an operation in Southeast Asia. And if you ask yourself, what did they actually do with all the money? Maybe you can go to the next slide. So what they actually did is all the all the cards that they phished from their victims. They just put it in their own Apple Wallet, and the way that they made money is they shipped these devices across the world. So you could buy a device that had like 10 cards in it or 20 cards, and it costs, I don't know, like 500 euros. And then from that 500 euros, you can just do payments with the victim's cards. And if they stopped working, then they stopped working. Then you had 9 more in your Apple Wallet to do. So
quite a lucrative business model. Just looking at the figures on the 2,599,000. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, what's technically possible. I mean, this is a disclaimer for people in the room. Don't try this at home, right? So, but I do think it's organized. It is difficult to maintain. It is how we need to go there. Is a combined approach. We cannot do it alone. It's a shared responsibility with all of the various partners in the ecosystem. I've understood, and most and foremost, you don't blame the individual that by accident clicks on it. It's a shared responsibility to be vigilant of all of these things. Did I summarize the first statement correctly, gentlemen? Before we move to the second one.
Thank you, Wout. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then the second one is it's the banks and payment service providers. They should secure their flows. That goes a bit into the direction that you previously touched upon already, Olaf. Would you like to elaborate?
I would like to elaborate on that one. It is indeed difficult to put something out there which is in all degrees secure. It is something you can, technology-wise, cover in the best ways that you should or could do this. You can do this with the kind of TLS security. You can do this with the QR codes that we put out there. But it is indeed something which can be subverted by the different actors that bring a story next to what you see and what you actually have on your mobile phone. You can have a perfectly fine It's Me app on your mobile phone, and nevertheless, you get somebody on that same phone that will tell you, hey, I want to do something for you. Can you help me? I am card stop, but you have to do something now to stop actually losing your money.
Gentlemen, any additional perspective on this one?
Well, what I maybe want to add there as well is when you say when the statement says it's the fault of the banks, they need to do something. It's often the case that when we talk about a payment transaction, the bank is often the last party in this whole payment transaction. So your transaction starts somewhere here, let's say on the site of bol.com, for example, and then there are like 4 or 5 other parties in between before your transaction actually is received by the bank. And then the bank says like, yes, this is good, or no, this is not good. And one of the complications in this whole ecosystem is that all these different players, so in this whole chain, everybody knows something about the transaction because bol.com knows what you bought. They know where you want to ship it. They know if you've ever been there before. If you logged in with It's Me knows who you are, but that's not bol.com. Bol.com doesn't know who you are. And then all these different players, they all know something about it. And then in the end, the bank, they need to make a decision. And one of the things which is a complication here is that we really need to provide this information from start to finish, so that we really need to work together with everybody in this payment chain to provide the context to each other.
Yeah, this end-to-end visibility across the chain is for me a very interesting one, because I mean we've been talking about the grandma of 90 who might be, well, I would doubt that she goes on bol.com and then buys something, but assume that it's a digital or like a modern granny who does this. But even the digital native ones, the Gen Zers among the world, I think they would benefit tremendously from such visibility. But I guess that is a continuous negotiation or even discussion that you would need to have amongst all of the various stakeholders within the ecosystem in order to drive that transparency.
But that precedes a little bit the next question. But it's true, you need to build up a trusted chain of events and deliver into a trusted network, and that helps. So it's important, as said as well, is that every part of the chain is trusted in that story.
The thing that you put out in the world, and that's why we are sitting here together, is the experience that you gain by doing this in such scale is that you see a lot of things. That go right. You can make an ease of use application which is easy to use, which is frequently used by everybody of us. But then again, you also see those fraud cases. And if you see them, you can collect evidences, you can collect indicators of compromise, which actually go into that part of the ecosystem that you manage. But like it was said, you don't see what is actually happening on the other side. What's the bank doing with this? What's the payment institution doing with this? And you have to be able to share this data. If you don't share it, you're not having the full power of the ecosystem. And that's, at the current moment and the state of affairs, I'm afraid that that's the thing that's lacking. If you saw Miguel de Bruiker this morning, if you saw Catherine de Heining just now right next door, it's that kind of data sharing that is desperately needed to fight this kind of fraud.
Message well received, I think. Data needs to be transparent, readily available across the entire chain for end users, but all the way to all of the various instances that are actually on that chain.
And I'm talking as a DPO. Which means data protection is still there. We have to respect privacy, but the proportionality and the necessity of sharing this data is there. So we share the data that is needed to fight this kind of fraud.
Makes sense. This is a societal problem that requires regulation and legislation to enable innovative approaches to fraud prevention. By the statement, I would already agree. But I'm still very happy to get your perspective on it, because I think it's more about what you're going to be saying about this one that I'm very curious about. Legislation, regulation, bringing the actors across the ecosystem together, but also when we haven't touched on that regulatory component yet. So maybe let's zoom in there first, Johannes.
Well, maybe the regulatory I leave to the more specialist, which is probably Olaf. But I think we can all, and that's a bit the role that we have as service providers or as companies offering service into that space, is actually looking at our specific case, our specific solution, how we can make them as fraud-proof or phishing-proof as possible. And because we see fraud and phishing is on the rise. We've seen that, I think the figures show it already in the last 2 months, or in the first 2 months of 2026. The amount that has been stolen through phishing is already as high as in the last 6 months of 2025. So it's definitely on the rise. And there's some initiatives we see coming from government, from the Center for Cybersecurity Belgium. They just launched last week a protocol in order to scan every new website, to scan every mail that they get from people that report fraud and phishing. We've seen just this weekend, I think Minister Beenders as well launched the requests towards the bank to do something, to come up with a plan in order to reduce fraud and phishing by the summer. So there's really a pressure also coming from politics as well. And I think our role as service providers in there is also to help and search for solutions. And it was typically something that we found at a certain moment in time as well. So a few years ago as well, as I said, we are trying to help companies digitizing their processes in order to make them more efficient and to make them more user-friendly. But we were kind of, the whole phishing thing was also kind of blocking the progress, the further progress in that digitization. So that's when we reached out towards, in first place, to Bankcontact and to say, okay, well, you have a trusted network. We work together with trusted suppliers because they go to an approval process before they can even start working with us. And why not deliver our invoices directly into your application? You have data that is checked, and at that time it was email, and at that time it was a mobile phone number. And okay, we got that data from our suppliers, so if we can match them, we're 100% sure that we can deliver the document in a secure way, in a secure platform, as at that time, Payconic, Bankcontact by Payconic or Payconic by Bankcontact still had no Bankcontact Pay. Mm-hmm. In the second phase, we enhance it, and that's actually the reason why we're sitting here together as well. Is we enhance it, and also came to we work a lot for governmental agencies. We work a lot for hospitals. They not always have this kind of data, mobile data, email data, and so we enhance it with also the use of the national registration number. National registration number, which can be securely captured from It's Me. So we set up a system that the three of us together are making sure that we get that data that allows us to, of course, in an encrypted way, match it up with the data that we get from our supplier to enable the suppliers to deliver their invoices, again, in a trusted environment from Bankcontact.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're already spilling the beans a little bit on the secret sauce on why you're sitting together. To bring it back to the previous point, to properly close on the first statement, I mean, someone brought a picture along from the Belgian government that is working, of course, very closely on bringing all of the various parties against phishing and the disruption within the phishing industry. Anyone who has a hot take on this particular one?
Maybe I want to first provide a little bit of extra context on the previous statement when you said it was a societal problem. What's important here in Belgium is it's not only a Belgian problem, it's a bit of a worldwide problem, the phishing and the scamming. But I guess here in Belgium, it often occurs here because for us here in Belgium, let's say digital payments and mobile payments, it's very normal. I mean, when you wind the clock back, let's say 5 or 10 years, there was very little digital payment and everything needed to... your online transactions needed to happen with the boxke as they call it. So if you see where we went from the boxke to where we are now with the mobile payments and payments integrated in every app to make it very easy for people to pay, then of course, you make it. I don't want to say you make it easier for the fishers, but you open a lot of doors for the fishers to do it. So on that, with that perspective, I think you're in Belgium. I don't want to call it we're a victim of our own success, but in a way it is. We really moved really far on the mobile payments world, and then of course the fishers, they look at it and they say, okay, that's an interesting target. And then of course it's like what was said before, we need to all work together to kind of counter that, because as you heard in the keynote, we all need to work together, and that's why I think we're very happy that we're sitting here and to kind of work together on that part.
Gert-Jan brought in the mondial or the global scale of it, and I think that on a European level, we Belgians, we are actually experimenting garden for a lot of these solutions. That's why we have a lot of mobile payments indeed already in Belgium. If you compare that with other member states, it's far less. Same thing for mobile identity, and I just want to bring the thing to it's me. The mobile identity, like we have it today in Belgium, is one of the unique examples in Europe. The thing that I'm seeing now in the regulation that we see coming, so one is you have PSR regulation, you have the kind of GDPR omnibus, which is now, let's say, lightening up a bit the stringent sharing of data that should be enabled for these kind of things. At the same time, we see EIDAS, which is our legislating Bible, if you want. That Bible for wallets, mobile wallets, does not specify how these kind of innovative solutions should deal with this kind of fraud. And that's the gap that I see coming. The context sharing that mobile wallets will not be able to do, like we do it today with Bankcontact, with POM, is something which is lacking currently.
Yeah, very interesting point. I mean, the continuous trend that I hear is transparency needs to be there. All ecosystem partners need to be involved. Legislation needs to follow and needs to act equally fast as the technology is evolving. Because, I mean, sometimes us Belgians are sometimes a bit like, we're a bit quiet and not very proud. But I do agree. I, for instance, live in Switzerland, where this whole banking ecosystem is not at all as advanced. Also, like, there's no, for instance, an app like It's Me that you can digitally identify yourself as an individual. You still need to do it with a picture of your passport, for instance. So all of these things I think we can be deeply proud of as Belgians, and we also need to, then think strategically about how do we go the next step. And that is exactly bringing all those actors together, including legislation.
And if I may add one thing there, because you say to take kind of us to the next step. Of course, the guys on the other side, so the fishers, they're also thinking about going to the next step. And what's interesting there is the trend that you see there is really they're also moving a bit into the AI space. And to give you a good example of that, so every year at the DEF CON security conference, there's always like a special area set up where they do like live social engineering. So it's a bit of a competition. So you enter the booth, they give you a company to social engineer, and you do it live on stage. And that competition has been going on there for a couple of years. And then this year they started with a new competition, which is called, I think it was called the AI Phishing. So you as an individual, if you want to enroll in that competition, you had to write your own AI bot to do phishing. And then there was like on stage live a competition of these AI bots calling companies like to extract information. So that's what we see that they're actually going for. So now it's in a more an experimental phase, because it went wrong quite a lot on stage. It was really, really funny to see, but that's actually where we're going, like AI bots. And then if we go back to the image of the mobile phones sending pictures, sending scam texts all the time, you can imagine the situation if that's like 10 servers with AI calling people all the time. So we have to be very cognizant of what AI is going to do for us, but also what AI is going to do for the other side, I would say.
Yes, unfortunately, we do not have time to unwrap all of this whole AI topic. I do want to end with one secret sauce, because, I mean, we've brought 3 fantastic people together. Anyone who would like to share a little bit as a last outro on how this success story came together with POM, Bankcontact, and It's Me, before we close?
I think it's a combination of trust and convenience, I would say, and that's what we brought together. And I think we can be very proud that we did it also. This is a Belgian solution, and trust has to be there. But at the same time, if the user experience is nothing, then it's not going to work neither. And I think that's a secret sauce of what we're doing together, I think.
I think the summary is quite clear there. Trust has to be there, and trust has to be earned. And I think this is something that we want to carry forward, not only in Belgium, but also on a European scale.
I couldn't have summarized it better, to be honest.
I'll be in Switzerland soon, if you...
Oh yeah, yes, come over. I know the market landscape quite well. Maybe we can connect afterwards. Was delighted to have you on my sofa today to discuss more of the secret sauce that was brought together with POM, Johannes Vermeeren, Olaf from It's Me, and Gert-Jan from Bankcontact. Thank you so much for joining the panel, and enjoy CyberNova.
Thank you both.